This is Kyle McCord, and you're listening to Austin, Felix, and Matt on the Devy Debate.
Welcome to the Devy Debate. All right, boys. Are we ready to debate? Austin, you tweeted something, girl. You tweeted your running back tonight. Explain yourself.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast. You jumped up and...
That's Austin Nace.
Who is going to be that guy? And for me, Bijan Robinson is still going to be that guy.
Back to the ground with Robinson, who spins and then tries to bounce it. A stiff arm, another one as he rides it, keeps his balance. They're going to say he stepped out, but
I'm Felix Sharp. I know you didn't think that we would get through this episode without mentioning the name one Zach F. Wilson.
Screener draw. Oh, Wilson is going to uncork for the end zone, and he drops it in beautifully. And it is his roommate, Dax Milne, on the touchdown.
That's Matt Bruning.
G. Scott Jr. Obviously, I waxed poetic about him on the last episode, so I won't do that again here.
And it's Thomas Fields on the carry. Watch out. Justin Fields. Hello, Columbus. 51 yards.
Bruning, are you ready to go head-to-head with me?
I am.
Got to get my popcorn out here. Hold on.
Got to continue. I got it. Kyle McCord is going to end up winning the job. He's going to be rated higher.
Well, I'm not nearly as passionate about what I'm about to talk about.
Our apologies to Kirk Fruit. We ran out of time. We'll get him rescheduled soon. And for Matt Bruning and Austin Nace, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck.
It's 9:30 Eastern Time, the only time zone that believes in separate tunnels to the locker room. And that means it's time for Devy Debate. No Felix Sharp tonight, but I've got Chris Moxley and Matt Bruning here with me. I'm Austin Nace on a weirdly amicable version of tonight's show. Maybe that's due to an absence. I don't exactly know. We're going to talk some NFL draft stuff. We're getting toward the end of the college football season. We're going to touch on a couple of debates there. We're going to talk about the Auburn head coach job and maybe some buy sells as well. Gentlemen, how about we talk Auburn first? That seems to be the hottest topic in all of college football this week. Auburn fired head coach Brian Harsin. I think at this point, pretty much everybody knows that. A long saga, including an attempted coup this offseason that failed. They finally got him on the second try. Chris, I'll come to you first here. First off, I mean, this is a good thing for Auburn, correct?
Yeah, it was untenable with Harsin at the helm, right? Like after what we saw last offseason, it was probably not going to be sustainable. So much pushback from key players made this kind of impossible. Like this was just an inevitable outcome. I actually thought it was going to happen at their bye week like 2 weeks ago. That would have made a lot of sense, but this week's as good of any. What's funny, and I thought this was hilarious when it happened, right? They hired a new athletic director. He was Mississippi State's athletic director, lured him over. 20 minutes after he's announced that he signed the contract, Brian Harsin's gone. Like, just not even the job for half an hour and you're firing that coach. But yeah, this was inevitable. I think it's a good thing for Auburn. Harsin just couldn't coach. I don't know if he couldn't coach. I think he's actually not a bad coach. I just don't think he was ready for an SEC level jump because he was at Boise State prior. Going from Boise State to Auburn is probably a little too big of a step up. So I actually hope he gets a job that is something like the Colorado job, for example, because I think he can coach. I just don't think he was a good fit at Auburn, and neither did the boosters from the beginning.
Yeah, Colorado seems like the perfect place for him. I think Harsin's biggest issue is in the SEC, you have to be a good recruiting head coach.
Yeah.
To win in the SEC, you have to have talent. You cannot outcoach the other. You're not outcoaching Nick Saban. You're probably not outcoaching Kirby Smart, who Auburn technically has to play every single year. I believe they're like one of the only SEC teams that has to play Alabama and Georgia every single year. Now, maybe that
Cross
changes.
division rival, baby.
Yeah, maybe that changes when Texas and Oklahoma come over to the SEC. Need to get a good recruiter. Another reason this has been a big topic of discussion is it feels like a lot of people are opposite of Moxley and myself. I don't know where you stand on this, Austin, that Auburn is a good coaching job. Like, it's a good opening. We had talked about, I know Moxley has mentioned it. I think Lane Kiffin would be smart to leave Ole Miss to go there as well. And people saying Ole Miss is the better job. Why? Because Lane Kiffin has made it a good place to be the past 2 years. Like, Auburn has actually won a national championship in my lifetime. Has Ole Miss even come close?
Weren't they number one in the first college football playoff ever?
Yeah, and then I
They
believe
were.
they lost like the next week.
Just
actually,
saying.
yeah,
I'm just saying.
like Auburn with I know all the talk is the negative talk on it is the boosters, right? Like, well, these boosters do that. They do the same shit at Texas. And for the most part, I know they're 5-3. Seems like Sark is somewhat navigating that. Like, if you have a coach that comes in there is able to recruit and they're winning, then the boosters are actually on your side and they're putting in that NIL money, which they're saying they want to do. Like, I don't see where the negative is outside of that. Like, not everybody can run the boosters like Nick Saban can.
Yeah, the whole talk about how this Ole Miss is a better job is just ridiculous. Like, I think that's such a bad take for a couple reasons. What is the best metropolitan area that Ole Miss is around that they can recruit to? Like Memphis, Mobile, maybe? Like, I don't think Mobile's really a great city. What's Auburn's? They're on the border of Alabama and Georgia.
Yeah.
Like, they can recruit the whole state of Georgia really effectively. It takes them 2.5 hours to get to the other side of the state. Like, Auburn's got the recruits. Auburn spent $17 million more on their football last year than Ole Miss did, so we know they're willing to spend. How many jobs can actually win a national championship in this country? 15, probably. 10 to 15, I think is the answer. Auburn is one of them. Ole Miss is not, in my opinion. Like, Ole Miss just does not have the recruiting hotbed in Mississippi and or a close metro area to pull it off. Auburn is willing to pay coaches that come in and, yeah, you get a sweet buyout at the end. But, like, they're willing to at least pay these guys. The boosters were still mad that they didn't get their guy. If you remember the original hiring of Harsin, it was really, like, an awkward, weird situation where the athletic director, who was clearly on his way out, made a rogue decision to hire Harsin without the boosters really getting behind him. And so, yeah, that's going to cause a lot of issues. If they can be aligned on this one, and whoever the hire is, like, I don't think it's going to be as big of an issue. So I like the Auburn job. I actually think Auburn job is probably top 10 job in the country. I just don't think, like, Nebraska, or if you want to win, right? If you just want to coast by and get like 9-win seasons, Ole Miss is perfect for you.
So I saw some people kick back on that because they did say that that's what they said. It's like, oh, well, Ole Miss, I guess the expectations aren't quite there, right? Like, Lane Kiffin could probably coach till the day he wants to retire at Ole Miss, even if he's only having like multiple, like if he's going 7 wins, 8 wins a season. You go look at what Gus Malzahn did at Auburn. He wasn't exactly blowing the doors off. He wasn't over here with 12-0 records, 11-1 seasons. Most of them are 4, 5, 5, 6, 5, 4, 4 lost seasons. And they held on to him for multiple years. Why? Because he was winning big games. And with, again, the expansion of the playoffs coming in a couple years, a school like Auburn, if they're winning most of these games, only losing a couple games, which I think they can do with Lane Kiffin, they're going to be in the playoffs. And again, I agree with what Moxie said. They are a program that can win a national championship. I don't know that Ole Miss would, because I don't think that they will end up getting the recruits. And we've seen, like, I'm going to give Lane a ton of credit. We've seen the recruits that he's been able to bring into Ole Miss. So maybe he's changing that landscape and he's changing the perception on Ole Miss. But I feel like if he were to go to Auburn, it wouldn't be as much of a – he wouldn't have to go sit in the stands when it's negative whatever degrees outside watching Quinshon Judkins is like the only person in the stands watching this guy. He'd be able to get the 5-star running backs to come to Auburn. Now, Judkins has worked out for him. It was a great move by him. I think it speaks to how good him and his staff are. You don't have to make those moves. You can get those high-end guys, or you can get a Judkins a lot easier at an Auburn probably than getting him to come to an Ole Miss. So, like, I'm with you 100%. I don't get I think people are using recency bias behind how successful he's been able to be at Ole Miss the past 2 years and saying, oh, Ole Miss is the better job because look at what Lane Kiffin's done. And I don't think that's necessarily true.
You just talked about some unrealistic expectations, Matt. I think you guys have unrealistic expectations. I don't think Auburn is a top 10 program, a top 10 job in this country. I don't think they're top 15. I think they're borderline top 20. I think there's a lot of things working against Auburn. You will always be a little brother, whether that is always a bad job. Michigan State is not a great job because you're always a little brother. A place like how
are those two jobs comparable? One is like 2 hours away from Atlanta. The other one's in freaking East Lansing.
They don't recruit Atlanta well, though. That's the problem.
Yet.
They don't actually do it well.
Yet.
They recruit the state of Georgia pretty strong. Like, that's where a lot of their recruits come from there.
Their 1 year where they've been good in the past 15 years is because they lucked into Cam Newton.
But still
they have as many top 10 finishes in the past decade as Ole Miss does. It's not some great program that you're going to come in there and turn that thing around. I think the only argument you can make is that they're probably willing to spend more money. And I think as Lane Kiffin stays at Ole Miss, I think he gets more and more cash to play around with.
Okay.
I don't think Auburn is this great job. Quite honestly, I don't know. I think the expectations are too high for what that program really is, which is in 1 out of every 10 years, you make a run at an SEC championship. That's the kind of job it is. That's not a great job.
So I don't necessarily disagree with you. You said 1 out of every 10 years you make a run. What is it for Ole Miss? 1 out of every 20, 30, 40 years? Like you ranked Auburn as a top, you said roughly top 20. Well, let's go on the low end and say 20. Where's Ole Miss at? Because they're not in the 20s. What are they? Maybe top 30? Maybe? So, like, that's, I think, the point that me and Chris are arguing. It's not that Auburn is, like, a job you should put up there with USC, Texas, Oklahoma, these blue bloods. We're not saying that. We're saying it's better than Ole Miss, which everybody is kicking back and saying, no, Lane Kiffin should not leave Ole Miss for Auburn. I 100% think he should. I'm not saying it's a top. It should be considered, like, up there as the elite blue bloods of college football. But if I'm Lane Kiffin, I would happily go. Like, the one that doesn't make sense to me is I saw, or not even a rumor, it was On3 reported it, so I'm pretty sure they have sort of that Steve Sarkisian's interviewing for the Auburn job. That makes no fucking sense to me. Why? I have no idea there. Maybe it's just as a polite thing to do. Who knows? Or maybe it was Sports Illustrated, so that's not as reliable as a source. But multiple people were, like, tweeting out that Steve Sarkisian's taking that. That makes no sense to me. Lane Kiffin, if he were to, like, that makes sense. I would much rather be the head coach of Auburn than Ole Miss personally. No offense to any Ole Miss Rebels fans who listen to this.
I just find it, like, they've been to 2 national championships in the last, 10 years? 11 years?
Yeah. It's been
like how many?
12.
2010. How many teams can actually say that?
And
like,
literally one of them was Cam Newton, and the other one was a historically bad year for the SEC. I have their schedule up here from that second year. It's a fucking atrocious schedule.
But Ole Miss couldn't do it.
How many teams can actually do that, though? Like, they also, what? They have, let's see. I got it up here. So they had a second place finish in 2004. That's probably a little too far back to go. 10th place finish in 2017 under Gus Malzahn. And Gus Malzahn is kind of I don't know what to think about him. But I mean, like, you can win at Auburn. You can't, like, you can win a national championship at Auburn. How many programs can legitimately win a national championship? Not get to the top 4, not get to the final 4, but win a national championship. And I think Auburn is one of those places. We've seen it done the last decade. They've been to 2 national championships. Like, you can't discount them. Whatever qualifier you want to use, it still happened. Like, you could still
Auburn won't make another national championship game in 25 years. I can almost guarantee it.
Okay, you want to bet?
Yeah, I do.
What do you want? What are the stakes?
Who's the coach going to be? Even if Lane goes there,
Nick Saban Jr.
Mecca Saban.
No, I think he actually has only daughters. I don't think that he has a son.
Hey,
but
coach too. We don't know.
That's true. Nicole Saban Jr. No, I legitimately think that they can get back. Like, what are your odds that Ole Miss makes a national championship before Auburn does.
Are the odds better? Probably not. Are they markedly better? Like enough that I would
55,
change
55,
jobs
55,
to
45. 55, 45. Let's say Auburn's
yeah,
55.
probably in that range. Yeah. Yeah. The furthest I would go is 60-40, but I still think that's too much for what these jobs actually are. They're about to all be the second class of the SEC. This is with Texas and Oklahoma coming in. These are the kind of schools that are about to be second class citizens.
But
I'd rather have the Auburn job than the Oklahoma job.
So why I think Auburn could take that next step in there again with Lane Kiffin, which is what me and Chris were talking about when all this kickback came back, is again, we just talked about whatever you think of him as a coach. I know some people don't think he's that good. Some people think he is. I happen to think he is a decent head coach. I think he's one of the better group, maybe not in that upper echelon, but probably in that tier 2 of coaches, in my opinion, in college football. We know he's a good recruiter. You just mentioned the money they are willing to throw behind somebody, which we are now realizing probably matters. Maybe it hurts them a little bit with the way we've seen some schools like Miami, and I forgot who else I'm thinking of that's completely like fallen off here because of NIL, Texas A&M. So maybe
I thought you were just making a rip that A&M was not important.
They're not important. That's why I forgot who they were. It took me a minute to think of them. But maybe it does hurt them because they're willing to do that, but I don't think it would. And I think that's, again, the reason why you can possibly put Auburn up there, because I do agree with Chris. Like, I think that Auburn matters more than Ole Miss to maybe to his kids. It's a different life now that a lot of these recruits are living, but I think that would matter more to them. Adding in the money part of it, adding in a Lane Kiffin thing, like, are they going to be up there with Alabama, Georgia, Texas? If you want to put Oklahoma up there, whoever else, probably not. But I think they would be the top of that tier 2. But I don't think Ole Miss gets there. I think it takes, excuse me, I think it would take Lane Kiffin getting to the playoffs multiple times to put Ole Miss up in that tier 2 of that echelon of tier 2 teams in the SEC. And I don't know that they do that. They have a great team this year, and they're going to probably lose 1 or 2 more games.
I agree with that, but I also am not really I prefer the Auburn job to the Oklahoma job. I think when Oklahoma enters the SEC, I'd much rather be at Auburn if I was a head coach.
Why though? It's not.
What's attractive about the Oklahoma job once you enter the SEC?
History. I think their blue blood status, which Auburn doesn't have. And the other thing about Auburn is they don't, as far as I've heard from their fans, they don't have a booster base to do the NIL stuff really heavily. I don't know if Ole Miss does either.
I don't know if I believe that, considering how much money they're paying to
the
coaches that have been fired.
The reports that On3 released recently talked about they apparently Auburn has a chance to be one of the top teams when it comes to NIL. They're just waiting. They haven't done anything yet because I guess obviously everything going on with Harsin would have been my guess. I'm just saying, look, I trust.
We got the war chest.
It wasn't Sports Illustrated that reported that. I trust On3 when it comes to stuff like that. I believe, and just like Moxley said, the amount of buyouts that they're paying to some of these coaches, I think they probably do have a decent amount of NIL.
So here's the question, in my opinion. Are they willing to go out and pay top dollar for a coach, probably a fully guaranteed contract, because that's what it's going to take? And if it is Lane Kiffin, who I like Lane Kiffin, I think Lane Kiffin can get it done at Auburn. If they're willing to do that and they're willing to commit to NIL, is there a reason not to like the Auburn job? Assuming those things are true and fall in order, right? They get a good coach, they have NIL. What is the reason to not like this job? Because they have they're geographically, they're great. It feels just like such a great opportunity if they're actually willing to invest in the NIL and they're actually willing to pay up for a good coach. If people say Nebraska's job is better than that, there's no chance Nebraska's job is better than this. No way.
No. Nebraska is not even a top 30 job in the country anymore. Ugh.
Not anymore. No. And what scares me a little bit, and you touched on this earlier, that these kids don't remember. You know how old these 18-year-old, 17-year-old recruits were when Cam Newton won the national championship? They were 7 and 8 years old.
Yeah, but a lot of these players still look up to a guy like Cam Newton because of not
of course,
in college, but what he did in the NFL. Who are you looking up to from Ole Miss? Is it AJ
Swag
Brown?
Kelly?
Swag Kelly? Maybe it's. I mean, like the only one I can think of is maybe AJ Brown, who's been phenomenal. DK Metcalf's been pretty good too, but like, there's nobody there. Like, I don't know. Maybe we are wrong here. Seems like everybody disagrees with us. Like, I just think Auburn is.
I don't think
I don't know
it's
about
a
the
bad
Oklahoma
job.
thing,
I just
but-
don't think it's like this super job. I don't know.
Well, again, I don't think we're arguing it's a super. Well, I'm not. I'm just saying it's a much better job than Ole Miss, which seems to be the kickback. I don't understand that.
It's a top 15 job, in my opinion. A top 10 maybe was a little aggressive, but it's at least top 15. Just, I think a lot of factors play into it. I just don't think, and I don't think Gene Chizik and Gus Malzahn really did them any favors in the perception of this job. Like, I don't think either one was a particularly good coach, even though Chizik won. But I mean, that was Cam.
Well, what do you guys think about Deion Sanders? Is a name that's been thrown around a lot. This does not feel like the time for him to take that job. But the thing that would be enticing about Deion is that purportedly he can recruit. I'm not actually sure he can do that at a high level at a big program, but purportedly he can recruit, and he comes with.
He definitely can.
He comes with a quarterback.
Is Shedeur Sanders a good enough SEC quarterback?
I don't think Shedeur Sanders is an SEC level quarterback, and there's a reason that he wasn't really getting those kind of actual offers. I don't think he was.
He was going to be South Carolina's quarterback before Deion took the Jackson State job. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, he wasn't really considered a get. So, but he comes with them, and they don't have that on the roster right now. Like, I think that that'll be a selling point.
I would also say he's probably coming with Travis Hunter too. I don't think
Probably.
Hunter stays if he leaves.
And Coleman.
I could see him, and Coleman. Kevin, good friend of the program, amazing writer. So I actually think he could be a good coach. I've not heard anything negative about him as a coach, a recruiter, anything like that. And it doesn't seem like he wants to be, like, he seems like he's the CEO type, which I don't think is a bad thing. I don't think he wants to come to him like, I'm going to be the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. If he makes the right hires, why wouldn't he be? If he can recruit. Like, again, I think that's all that really matters for the SEC. You're not likely going to outcoach a Nick Saban ever. So you've got to have recruits that can match with them, and you got, in my opinion, get lucky here or there to beat a Alabama, to beat a Georgia with Kirby Smart. So I don't think that he would be. Now, he was in for, was it the Arkansas job before they decided to go with
Yeah, Sam Pittman.
It came out of nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was in for the TCU job before they hired Sonny Dykes.
So, like, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because Sam Pittman had never been any kind of head coach, and they decided to go with him. Was he an offensive line coach before he got that job? So, like, maybe that was, he didn't do good in the interviews, but like, everything I've ever heard talked about, podcasts read, is also that he nailed the interview. So I don't know. I think everybody's making that reach because Auburn is, I believe, an Under Armour school, and that's who does all of his stuff as well. I think he's going to get a shot eventually. So if it is at Auburn, I guess so be it. Like, I don't think he'll be bad at all.
I don't think Auburn's a bad spot for him either, for what it's worth. I don't know this is going to happen. People want him at Georgia Tech. I don't think he'll take the Georgia Tech job. I think he's aiming for a little bit higher than that, personally. I don't think, I think he would be good at Auburn. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think it's way more likely they go the Lane Kiffin route if they can. I've heard Hugh Freeze rumored there. I mean, oh my God. If Hugh Freeze goes to Auburn, I mean.
Still a top 15 job in the country if Hugh Freeze goes there?
I don't know.
Probably not.
Probably not. I mean, would Hugh Freeze even be like, would that pass the smell test for the SEC?
So,
like, would they let him take this job?
You know how Auburn isn't actually a top 10 or a top 15 job? Because these are the names that we're discussing to take this job. It is Lane Kiffin. It is Hugh Freeze.
What's wrong with Lane Kiffin?
It is Deion Sanders. Those are all fine coaches. But it is not the level. LSU last year, what did they do when they needed a new head coach?
Hang on.
Head coach at Notre Dame.
We've all talked about how that was a bad hire, so you can't say that all of a sudden he went out there and got who they wanted.
They went and got who they wanted.
Do we know that's who they really wanted, or they just be like, "Oh, we're gonna
get
Kelly"? Because
for better or for worse, I think that is very much who they wanted.
No, I don't
Better
think
for
Lane
worse.
Kiffin's a bad hire. Okay, so who are you going to go get then?
Yeah, that's what I was
You're
going
not
to
gonna
say.
go-
Give me a name.
You're not
Austin.
going to get Ryan Day.
Well,
You're not going
that's
to get
what
Lincoln Riley. They're
when-
interviewing Sark. He's probably going to say no.
When
So
Ed
if Sark would
Orgeron
take
got
the job,
fired, what
would
were
that be
the
top
names we were
15?
talking about last year? And then who did they end up with? We'll
Dave
see who
Aranda.
Auburn ends up with. But it's not going to be anybody that's in that class of coach. It's not going to be.
Because there's not any of those guys available. Like, what if they...
Brian Kelly wasn't available.
Yes,
Guess
he
what?
was.
They went out
He
there and said, we
was.
will open up the checkbook and
Notre
give you
Dame
whatever
wanted to
you
get
want.
rid of him. I think Notre Dame
I
wanted
don't
to
think
get
they
rid of him.
did.
I think they did.
I don't think they did.
And I still don't think he's an upper echelon coach personally. So I think I think he's in the same tier as Lane Kiffin. So I'd like the Lane Kiffin bashing needs to get brought down a level.
What schools in the country can go and take Notre Dame's head coach from them?
Ohio State.
There's
Michigan,
a list of
Auburn,
maybe 7 or 8
5
schools that can
5
do
to
that.
10.
It's
Yeah.
not many, and Auburn is
Auburn's in
not
there.
one of those
Oh, they're
schools.
in there. They're in there.
No.
I don't think Notre Dame's job's that good, but here nor there.
The
We're just pissing off all the
blue-bloodedness
fan
matters,
bases today.
I think. If you're Dion, real quick, one last question before we head on. Like, I know he's a competitive guy. He thinks he'll win anywhere. But Auburn, like, that roster is bad right now. They have basically no quality recruits coming in next year at all. It's like the 50th ranked class in the country, and I don't think that's going to change much between now and signing day. I have to think if you're Dion, you think that there's probably a better situation that'll come open in the next year or two for you, that you don't have to rush and take the first, somewhat sexy name that comes calling for you.
I don't disagree with that necessarily, right? Like, it's not a good situation, but any school that hires Dion basically needs to commit to, hey, you're our guy, but 4 years, 5 years, like, that is the timeline. And like, you're not getting that a lot at schools, right? Like, Jeff Collins at Georgia Tech, that's what he asked for, and like, it didn't work. It didn't work out. But I mean, the margin is so thin. But if you're Dion, you're like, I need 5 years to rebuild this program. Get my guys in here who I want, especially with the recruiting that it's been. I think he can recruit at a top 5 level. Like, I don't have any questions about him doing so.
I think he would not turn it around. It's like a top 10 class. I actually think he probably could. If they actually went after him now and said, hey, we want you to be our coach, and he is hired, probably not going to be able to get some of these early signing day guys. I would bet he flips a big name or two by national signing day. Because
you think he'll end up like top 30?
I think they could get close to top 30.
Top 30 is not very good if you're in the SEC, though. Like, Vanderbilt is like a top 30.
Going
look what he's dealing with.
Yeah, but going from top
50
to top 30, like, you got to start somewhere. Like, I think he could flip a couple big name recruits if he was named the Auburn head coach, or guys like, because that's what happened with Travis Hunter, right? Like, nobody had any idea that was coming until like an hour before, and all of a sudden it's like, is this real? Like, is he really going to flip from Florida? Was it Florida State, right? Yeah, flip from Florida State. I think that he could do that in his first year, and then, we'll see what happens. Was Jackson State that good before he took over? I don't know, to be honest. So
I still don't think they're that good. I mean, they beat up on the SWAC or whatever, but it's not a very good conference.
Okay. So, I mean, like, I think he could probably bring in some recruits this year, and then it would have to be hard, like heavy and hard into 2024 to really kind of turn the program around. More transfer.
They've relied very heavily on getting some of these guys that are like second chance basically at the FCS level. I wonder if that would continue at Auburn or not. Do you go get Chris Marshall, who leaves Texas A&M this year? Do you go get insert player that's had some legal issues this past year? Like, I wonder if he could get away with that at Auburn, because he's built a large portion of his success off doing that. And there's nothing. I mean, so these kids deserve second chances most of the time. But it's just, and I don't know if that would fly necessarily at Auburn.
Isn't that kind of what Hugh Freeze has done too?
And look where he is now.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk some Dane Brugler, who was on the Athletic Football Podcast this week and had, as usual, always has good nuggets of information to chat about, because not only is he, a pretty good evaluator, but he also is connected. He hears whispers from here and there. And I had some interesting discussions on, for instance, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud. And I think this race is starting to solidify itself a little bit more. We've talked a little bit about it, but I don't know if we've had the official this year Bryce Young or CJ Stroud debate. And now that we've got 7-8 games under our belts, Matt, where are we at on these two guys right now?
It's Bryce Young for me. It has been for quite a while. Look, I like CJ. I do think he's a very good quarterback, despite, me semi-rooting for him not to win that job last year. And calling for him to get benched. Let's be honest.
Semi is very generous. I just want to throw that out there.
I'm a generous kind of guy. And calling for him to get benched last year. He improved immensely over the second half, and I do think that he has been a good quarterback this year. I still have fears about the way that offense has been schemed. We talked a little bit about this on the after show a while back. I don't remember when it was. It's been a month or so ago. With the way that they scheme wide receivers, I know that he knows how to read defenses, and I don't know that he makes adjustments at the line. I see a lot of, and this is not necessarily this is only what CJ Stroud can do, but I watch a lot of Ohio State. You see a lot of this, see it a lot of other college programs. Set hut, defense reacts, he turns and looks to the sideline to see what Ryan Day wants to do. I don't want my quarterback going into the NFL doing that. You know who doesn't do that? Bryce Young. Bryce Young makes the adjustments at the line. He calls out the defense. He figures out what he's going to do next, and he does it. On top of that, he is an incredible improviser. He can use his legs. We saw it a little bit earlier this season where I think he rushed for over 100 yards against Utah State, and I don't want him to necessarily do that at the NFL level, but he can. CJ doesn't. CJ can move around in the pocket a little bit. He'll move laterally. He's not going upfield very rarely. And I don't even think he's that good throwing off platform. Everybody talks about, I think, is the one throw he made to Mayan Williams, where Mayan Williams had to literally catch the ball in between his legs jumping, then brought it down on the sideline. I believe it was in the first game of the season against Notre Dame. I don't think he's that good of a passer off platform like Bryce Young is. CJ Stroud has to be protected perfectly, in my opinion, in the pocket for everything to work well for him. If we're talking strictly from fantasy, why do I want that quarterback? Because I need him to go to a pass-heavy offense that's going to say, hey, we want you to pass the ball 40 times a game, and hoping that he gets multiple touchdowns a game and 300 yards. That's not going to happen that much in the NFL. With Bryce Young, he is an improviser. I'm not saying he's going to be Patrick Mahomes, but I can see him doing things like that. He's going to flush out of the pocket. He's going to find ways to make plays down the field. He's just a gamer. Do I worry about his size? 100%. But it hasn't affected him. I've watched that dude take massive hits, and he's gotten one injury so far. It was a shoulder injury. He sat out one game. He's come back, and they're saying that shoulder still bother him. Could have fooled me with the way he's played in some of these games. I felt he's been amazing. So I hate to say this. I would almost put Bryce Young at this point in a tier of his own, and then it's CJ Stroud, and then there's really nobody else that I even want in this class. But I just have more faith in Bryce Young, watching what he does week in, week out on a Saturday basis, him being able to call his own plays, make adjustments at the line, shift the offensive line to give protection, call out defenses, not have to look at his coach to figure out what play is going to be made. He can make every throw that I believe CJ Stroud can. I don't think his arm strength is that much different than CJ Stroud's either. And he's doing it this year without any weapons whatsoever. CJ Stroud struggled when JSN went out. It took him weeks to get on pace with Mecca and Marvin Harrison Jr., who would probably easily be the top two starters for Alabama right now if they were to just do a trade and send him over there. Bryce Young was making it work with guys that would be like Ohio State's fourth and fifth stringers. Stroud has struggled with that, even going back to last year, to make those guys be efficient in this offense. So that does worry me a lot about Stroud. It would be Young.
I 100% agree, actually. I do not like... I don't want to say I don't like what I've seen from CJ Stroud this year, because that's pretty harsh, but I don't think he's been nearly as good as his numbers indicate. I mean, if he gets outside of structure, he's terrible, right? Oh, I don't want to say terrible. Terrible's also a little harsh. He's not very good. Like you just hit on it. Like he needs to be protected extremely well. And this Ohio State offense, and I know you talked about this as well, Matt, it's very specific. And so it allows quarterbacks to excel at an incredibly high rate because of the way that it's run. And it doesn't really do the quarterback any favors. So like from a processing standpoint, you're not really needing to go through all your progressions and needing to make decisions like Bryce Young does. Like I think Bryce Young does that at an incredibly high level as well. I'm not worried about Bryce Young's size because his size has never really impacted his game per se. Like he doesn't take hits. He's really smart about using his size effectively. Like he's a really good athlete, but he only uses it when he has to. I don't think Saban wants him running. So you're not seeing a lot of that, but you see more of it this year than probably we've ever had. I'm on the Bryce Young train, and I just worry that CJ Stroud is like a little bit more product of his system than Young is, if that makes sense. I don't want to, I mean, CJ Stroud could be a top 5 pick probably. So like still a really talented dude. It's just if we're nitpicking. And you know who shouldn't be a top 5 pick? That shouldn't even be in this conversation, but is Will 27 pass attempts, 98 yards, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, Levis against a really bad Tennessee defense. Just had to throw that shot in there against our boy Will. Your boy Austin Will.
I know. I'm gonna be. What was your bet with Will Levis?
If he's a first round quarterback, that I get the tattoo, which he will be. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Problem. Some purpose goose.
Yeah.
Fun.
So
It's
gonna happen.
Is Stroud? He floats in and out of games like a lot. Like it feels like he's not really in control of a game ever, and then he'll have a drive that like he does it. I don't know. It's very, very odd. I don't remember a quarterback prospect in recent times that has played like that. Like basically all of his great throws from the Penn State game all came on that, what was it, late third or early fourth quarter drive.
Yeah.
Where he had like 4 fantastic throws, and then the rest of the game, honestly, he kind of looked like crap. Fun times. He's not the Heisman front runner anymore, is he? From betting odds perspective,
He is.
It's Hooker.
Is it Hooker? Okay.
Yeah, it's Hooker, but barely.
It's not close. I think by the end of the year, this won't be close. Stroud just hasn't been that good. I
had a question for y'all real quick about the Stroud and where you rank him. Would you rather have Drake May or CJ Stroud?
Stroud.
Oh, I'd rather have May.
I think it's easy to elevate these guys off of one season. I need to see it for more games.
So while I don't necessarily disagree with you, Colin Decker, because you're giving off some Colin vibes here with raising guys up. It's funny listening to Campus Life, how you're always raising these guys up, and Colin's like, I need to wait to see a little bit more. And now you're pulling that. I have dropped CJ Stroud below Drake May. So yes, I would still take Drake May. My thing with May is, and maybe it's because I've watched a lot of North Carolina, just because I'm secretly hoping they find a way to make it to the playoffs, even though they'll probably get like killed in the first round. He's doing a lot of what Bryce Young has been doing. I don't know that he calls the offense. I haven't like paid that close attention, but his ability to play off script, throw off platform, use his legs. He's making NFL throws out there, having to carry that entire offense. And he's also like, 6'4", whatever. Like he's got NFL size. I think he can make every throw that CJ Stroud can. And he's doing it as a sophomore. Like you just mentioned right there, right? That CJ Stroud is never like, I watch, again, every Ohio State game. In every close game, and I tweeted this out, every big game or every game against a defense, never once as a Buckeye fan when Stroud's been the quarterback, because I felt like, yeah, we've got this game. This is in the bag. It wasn't until that fourth quarter that he really kind of took over. It's like, shit, we might actually beat Penn State, which we should be beating right now. You don't have that fear with Drake May. You watch UNC and Drake May, and it's like, well, could this defense get a stop for once?
I was going to say, I fear UNC loses pretty much every game.
But that's because of their defense, though, right? Not because of Stroud, not because of May.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, I get what you're saying. I understand not wanting it, because we have only seen, 8 games of him now. And I guess it's a little bit more of a result base than we've seen of DJU, but we were all crowning DJU QB1 after two good games, and look what that happened. So I get being a little bit hesitant, but like if you were asking me right now, if me and you were doing a trade, it's like, hey, I'll give you Drake May for Stroud straight up. I would take it just in a heartbeat. I wouldn't even think about it.
So I want to say real quick, I think DJU got elevated because it was a very dark time for Devy quarterbacks in college football. So I think that's a little bit of a unique circumstance. Like, who were the guys in the class above him? Were Sam Howell and Spencer Rattler. And I think even though a lot of us liked them, we never thought of them as like game-changing type prospects. So I think that was a little bit of a unique circumstance where now we have some of those guys in college right now. At least we think we do.
So then let me go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I was just gonna say May. Like, if y'all remember, like, he was Alabama's guy for a very long time before Bryce Young committed. When Bryce Young committed, he decommitted, of course, and went to North Carolina. But he was UNC's or Alabama's guy for a long time. He was their target in that class, and then the guy Young. But like, this is a dude that they believed in, and I think that kind of says at least a little bit as well about elevating him, even though it's a smaller sample.
So I want to ask Austin, because I know where you stand, Moxley, on Stroud, at least with May. Is it just Caleb Williams and Bryce Young then? Or would you not even take Caleb over Stroud? Is it just Young?
So right now I have Drake May as my QB5.
Stroud's QB3?
3, yes.
Behind Bryce and
Caleb? Sorry, yes. Then Quinn 4, then May 5.
Quinn for me, but
I still think Quinn just has that effortless whatever that you can't really
I agree.
teach. And people, this is a whole other discussion for a whole other day. People have been flaming Quinn Ewers. Do people not remember like Caleb Williams' 3rd, 4th, 5th starts last year? They were atrocious
when he got benched.
So
I mean,
so like everyone's this guy was supposed to be a top recruit, and it's like we just literally watched the same exact thing happen. Like, let them learn. These are their first snaps.
The biggest I guess the biggest endorsement I could give for Quinn on that, and I hate giving this guy credit, but it's something Felix said that night on College Fantasy Tonight. In the fact that you just mentioned Caleb, we saw Stroud. Granted, they said quote unquote because of the shoulder injury. It probably was true, but he got benched as well at one point in time. All of these guys have been benched, and what did Sark do? He's out there playing horrible. It's like, just keep throwing the ball, baby. Like, he had so much faith in Quinn to be able to bring them back and win that game. They just kept letting him go. Even though, if we're all being honest, like, Hudson Card was not horrible earlier this year, and it's actually good until he hurt his ankle. They could have easily benched Quinn, put Hudson Card in, possibly won that game, and they didn't. They kept Quinn in there. I think that just shows how much of an endorsement that is for how good that kid is. Like, I mean, I'm with you on that. That was that I don't understand that one bit, but that, if we're being honest, like, to go in a deeper discussion, we can have another day. That's the whole fantasy community that does this whole thing and takes 1 week sample size and either just jumps everybody up to QB, RB, wide receiver 1, or drops them down to whatever QB 50 because of one bad game.
No, they never do that.
In season, for me, my top 10 or 15 at a position will probably remain. It will probably remain almost untouched. You know, you might see a guy flip a spot or two, unless somebody craps the bed totally. Like Tyler Van Dyke has been nuked at this point. Buchner. We finally saw enough of him, although that one was a long time coming. But like, you'll see a lot of gap jumps for me of like, 90 to 40, because I just, I didn't think this guy would win this job, and he did, and he's looked good. But I think in season, reacting to 1 game, 2 games like that is how you get yourself in trouble.
I agree. I mean, just to that point, I've moved 3 quarterbacks so far this season, like that were in my top 15. It was Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, both dropped down, and then so did CJ Stroud. Everybody else has stayed the same. I haven't moved anybody.
Oh, well, Will Levis has always been around 30 for me. So
I moved him up because
probably disrespectful.
I wanted to believe in him progressing and all the first round talk. So it was a little bit of a hedge, but he dropped.
Felix left us a show sheet of things he wanted us to talk about, and I'm actually going to ignore a bunch of the stuff that he has on here for one final question. And then we actually we were supposed to give away the Jordan Addison jersey last week. We had some technical difficulties. We have them fixed here for tonight, so it'll be given away at the end of the show here. But I actually want to ignore everything that Felix gave us. We can talk about that when he's actually here. And Alex in the comments is saying what Caleb did without his wide receiver 1 or 2 was impressive this week. Yes, it is, Alex, which is why at Campus to Canton we had him as our player of the week in all of college football. Yeah. We agree with you. I talked a little bit about this on Back to Devy this week with Mike Valerie, one of our Devy guys and one of the hosts of that show. You can find that on the Campus to Canton podcast feed. He asked me about Connor Wegman, and I was kind of going through my notes, and I had him as my QB6 coming to the year in the class, and he'd probably jump up to like 4 or 5 for me now. But we were talking, and I said, we don't know what's going to happen with DJU next year at Clemson. We don't know if he's going to come back. We don't know if he's going to try to go pro. We don't know if that coaching staff will say, push him into the portal very gingerly. We don't know what's going to happen in that situation. But with that uncertainty today, would you rather have Cade Klubnik or would you rather have Connor Wegman, who looks to have probably earned that job there at Texas A&M?
I'll go first because my answer is easy.
Yeah, I don't want you to go first.
It's Connor. I had him above Cade to begin with. I think he's got everything you want in a quarterback, and I've never once questioned anything with his throwing. Well, maybe a little bit his accuracy, but nothing with the velocity, nothing with the downfield arm strength like I had with Cade. And I think we've mentioned this multiple times, but maybe there's a new person who's listening to us today. None of us were that high on Cade until Alan True of 24/7 Sports told us, well, he just looks different in person. And then we all moved him up, if we're all being honest. Like, not one of us, except for, I think, Alfred. I'll take that back.
His Elite 11 was really good.
If Alan screwed us, we're bringing him back on the show, and we're going to ask him about this. And we're lucky that he's friends with Felix, so we can do that.
Yeah, Alfred, I believe, was the only one who was, and I believe he has Cade at 1, has had Cade at 1, even over Drew Alar. It would be Connor for me. And I think, is it insane to say, I know he got a full game, and we haven't seen a full game of Cade yet, but I didn't see one thing from Cade in that game where he came in for DJU that I saw a whole game of Connor Wegman. And a worse offense, I think is fair to say. And an offense that we were talking about the coach needing to be fired. He's got a better weapon in Evan Stewart and Devin Achane. We were literally talking about this head coach needing to give up play calling duties 2 weeks ago. They couldn't do anything on offense, and Connor Wegman comes in there. And again, I stated this on College Fantasy tonight. There was a lot of scheme throws for him. There was a lot of stuff that was fairly easy, 1 read, 2 read, go. But he was making a lot of good throws out there too. I haven't seen that from Cade, and maybe it's because it's small sample size, so I'll give him that. But it would be Connor pretty easily for me.
I actually was a big time Klubnik hater before the Elite 11. And then he balled out and was awesome. And so I moved him up like a bunch right after that. I just didn't think he had the arm strength to do it, and I think that he does. I thought his 2-point conversion throw that he made in the Clemson game was the best play that he made, and I don't think it was particularly close.
I was going to say I liked that throw a lot. Yeah,
that was not only that, he bought time too. That was a great play. That was.
He only attempted 4 passes, by the way. So it's not like anything I've seen. I
have a comment on that here in a second too.
Yeah,
not to be an apologist for him, but yes.
He only attempted 4 passes. What are you gonna do with that, right? He's throwing to a weird game script, weird game situation. I still have Klubnik over Connor Wegman. I actually like Connor Wegman too. I was someone who was high on him as well. I don't think the Ole Miss defense is good at all. I think they're really, really bad and have been trending downward pretty consistently, probably since the Kentucky game. And so I don't want to take too much from this game because, like you said, Matt, a lot of those are scheme throws. A lot of that was schemed up stuff. And I think when a defense is that bad, you're going to probably profit from those more than you would maybe in a normal circumstance. So yeah, I'm not really bashing Cade. I'm just not making a movement after this. I had Cade higher. I'm keeping Cade higher.
So I just said, I don't want to be a Cade Klubnik apologist here, but I do think the game script is weird. The game situation was weird. And I know you can't expect the team to change the offense when they sub in a new quarterback in midway through the third quarter and things aren't going well.
You can talk about his 10 rushes up the middle.
They were just running him up the middle like he was DJU.
I knew that's where you were going.
You're gonna get him. DJ,
the dude's 195 pounds.
It outweighs him by at least 40 pounds and has at least 4 inches on the guy.
I was gonna say 40, 50 at least.
And they were just pounding him up the middle, and he was getting crushed. It was just, I was sitting there I think they should maybe not call that play anymore.
They must have done it, what, 10
Granted-
times? you think?
Granted, I will say that I really liked that Cade, every time he did it, got up and he was like fired up and he, first down in and, really hyped. But not to apologize for Klubnik, because I would take Connor Wakeman over him too. As someone who had them, I had my tier 2 of quarterbacks in this class was Klubnik, Simpson, Nick Evers, and Wakeman. Nick Evers. That guy.
I was right there with you. I think I had him as my QB5. I was right there with you.
Yeah.
So Matt, you had Cade Klubnik like in the 80s before entering the season.
Yes.
Have you moved him up substantially?
Yeah, he's like QB 60. No, he's higher than that. I think he's in the 30s now. Maybe. I just, again, it's multiple things for me with Cade. And maybe I'm being a little bit, everybody says they don't have any bias in their analysis, is bullshit. We all have some bias here somewhere, and sometimes it's subconscious. You can't let go of it. So maybe there is some like uninherent bias that I'm putting on here that I'm not really thinking about, but I still am holding on to. I didn't have him graded that high for me. I think he was like my QB 7 or 8. And I didn't move him. I didn't even move him up my top 5 even after the Allen stuff. I was like, I'm just not going to do that because one person tells me to and everybody else did. Like, I did not think he was that good personally. Then you throw him into Clemson, which granted, like I agree with what Austin said on that stuff. And you heard a lot about, I talked a lot about that on the spring training stuff or spring camp stuff. Like they all loved his leadership there. That's why there was all that talk about him possibly taking over that job. I think he's a great leader. I think he's a good football player. Clemson's offense is horrible. And I don't know that it's going to get any better just because Cade Klubnik's back there and it's going to be a better quarterback than DJU. I don't believe that he's going to necessarily be able to produce. So if we're betting on these guys getting drafted, I'm taking a guy like Connor Wigman, who I saw could go out there and fling it. He's going to have multiple, probably high-end prospects around him. And in Evan Stewart, if Chris Marshall's able to come back, they're going to get other wide receivers at some point in time. They're going to be surrounded by him, going to have good running backs, good offensive line. Like, I just believe in what Texas A&M is going to be able to do around Connor Wigman, and he'll be able to produce. Like, maybe he ends up being just as good, maybe not better than Klubnik, but I believe overall in what Wigman can do when he has around him. I had him graded higher, that it's not like at all a thing for me. I don't think Klubnik's going to turn out the way other people do, I guess.
Well, if we go back about a year, when I went on that show before the Elite 11, we were trying to predict who was going to win the Elite 11, and I said that Cade Klubnik was the worst quarterback I'd watched in the class out of 19 so far. And then
I wrote a scathing review of him before the Elite 11.
Made me look like a little bit of an idiot. And here we are now. I think it just from a one of them has a job locked up for next year and one of them doesn't. If you just want to simplify the argument to that, I think it could be as simple as that. I don't know that either offense is great, but I think that's a winner of an argument for me as far as I'm concerned. Would you take him over Ty Simpson today too?
Who?
You?
Klubnik?
No, sorry, Connor Wigman.
Probably.
As Ty Simpson's biggest fan.
I just didn't like that Ty Simpson was going round 15 when I said that. But yeah, I think I would, and I obviously like Ty Simpson, but yeah, I think I would take Wegman above him. And I drafted a bunch of Wegman. So here's a trade that I was proposed today, and it's with someone at Campus Canton. So like, I'm not going to name their name, but I am going to drag them on air.
If it's Colin, he's a stingy ass. Watch out.
No, I'm not gonna name their name. I was offered Quinn Ewers and Ontario Brown for Drake May, Connor Wegman, and a 2023 first round supplemental pick.
Holy crap. No, oh man. All right. You'll have to tell me who this is after the show. The May Wegman side is like clear, right? Like those are both ascending quarterback prospects. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I like Wegman. I don't know how much I like him. I mean, I liked him coming in. I just felt he was a little undervalued in Campus Canton leagues. So let me go through some quarterbacks that might be ranked, closely to him in people's lists and tell me when to stop, or who you prefer, Connor Wegman or JJ McCarthy.
Wegman.
Connor Wegman, or you said you would take him over Ty Simpson.
I think so. Yeah.
Connor Wegman or Kyle McCord, assuming Kyle McCord wins the job at Ohio State next year.
I think I'm gonna go with Wegman, but that's probably close.
Wegman or And then I don't know, like Hendon Hooker.
I don't believe Hendon Hooker is a NFL like starting quarterback. So
Wegman or Devin Brown.
Probably Wegman, considering I'm getting less and less convinced that Devin Brown's going to be the guy next year.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Well, you're the reason why. Wegman or Preston Stone?
Wegman.
That's a pretty interesting one because Bryce Young has a lot of
CFF value.
CFF value. I think I'll go with Wegman because that's kind of like how I play, but I understand the argument there.
Okay. I just wanted to toss some names out and see. Matt, I don't know if you heard those.
I heard Devin Brown. I don't know who was before that.
Okay, so Connor Wegman or JJ McCarthy?
Oh, Wegman.
Connor Wegman or Preston Stone? What's your take on that?
I would still go Wegman. I see the value in having Preston Stone because of the CFF, but like I don't know that if they continue to let him throw it the way he did, I don't know that his value is going to be that much less, and I think he's got a better chance of getting drafted. So I'd go Wegman.
You can find a guy that produces like Preston Stone in like the 40th round of your CFF drafts.
I think Preston Stone is a legitimate NFL prospect too, but I might be alone on that. Was a very highly rated recruit in his own class. So.
Yeah. Got to clean up some stuff in his game.
Yeah, for sure. Or Wegman or Simpson?
I mean, I had Wegman rated higher. I was also a Simpson hater. I've come around on Simpson. I know, Chris, you got me to come around on Simpson. All you guys did because you kept yelling at me.
He was ranked right next to Cade Klubnik in your rankings, by the way, at the time.
Simpson was?
He was also ranked right next to Cade Klubnik in my rankings, but they were quarterbacks 3 and 4. So
it's also because I still held out. I believe that Jalen Milroe was going to win that job. I'm not so sold on that anymore after watching him play so much, but
UCLA starter Jalen Milroe.
I would still take Wegman because, again, I've seen more from him. He was rated higher bebeforehand, so I'll take Wegman.
Wegman or Kyle McCord?
Oh, Kyle McCord. Not even a question.
So we'll end it on that one. All right.
Inherent bias. I said it's there somewhere.
All right. So before we get out of here real quick, Matt, you have this fired up. You've assured us that nothing's going to go wrong tonight.
No, it works.
And if it does, it's your head. I've been watching a lot of Game of Thrones lately. They do a lot of head on spikes. So I think that's
what are the consequences? Head on a spike?
I just get to keep the jersey, I think, if it doesn't work again, right? Isn't that what we agreed to?
So you stole the company card, you bought this jersey, and now you get to keep it. This is not how that works, Matt.
I mean, look, that's not what I was told. No, it does work. I ran it beforehand, so.
All right. So, and then just to give everybody an overview here, like if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see we have this really nifty, it's like a draft pick lottery simulator. Everybody's in here. Everybody that's entered the competition so far, you can see in that right or like that middle column there, it says how many entries that person has. So you remember there are 3 ways to enter this contest. You could sign up on Prize Picks with our promo code C2C and deposit at least $20. You could call into our Better Sports Show 8 to 10 a.m. every week on the Better Sports app, every Saturday morning on the Better Sports app. Or you could leave a review of one of our shows on the Campus to Camp podcast feed. Good news for you. If you don't win this one, we're still giving away a signed Jackson Smith and Jigba jersey. We're going to give that one away this weekend on the Tailgates, which is our other Saturday morning show, 10:30 to noon Eastern on our YouTube channel here. Or we have a signed Bijan Robinson jersey that we're giving away next week on that Better Sports Show. So you'll see some people here have like a 2 beside their name. It's because they've done 2 of these things. I think one person has a 3.
Yeah, Luke. So for those of you, and some of you emailed stuff in, some of you did not. So I was gracious. I'm just going to be honest. I was gracious enough to go through our reviews and pull your iPhone username. So for instance, if you're watching this, user 56485, bun, a bunch of letters, like a lot of
big
these
bun fan.
Yeah,
always
have
been. Yeah.
A lot of them are their iPhone username, so I really hope that you are going to listen to this at some point. You will have to get in contact with us and somehow prove that that's your username. If you do win it, again, through campus2canton@gmail.com, or if you follow us on Twitter @campus2canton. The rest of you who actually did email stuff in, we appreciate that. It's a little bit easier to keep track of. So as Austin explained, you got 1, 2, and 3. A lot of these were the reviews. So you can see there's no like different whatever, nothing weird going on there. So submit, And we are just going to, should we do the top three in case
Do top three in case somebody doesn't respond to us, which we've had happen before.
All right. So the winner is P-Win Dynasty. If you are listening to this, how long do we give them? Like a week?
We'll give them a week. Yeah. We'll give them till next week's show. And if we haven't heard back yet, then we'll move on to the next person, who is...
It is George 12. Is actually our latest review on there. So George 12 or Kyle Campos. So we will let you guys know, George or Kyle, obviously, if P-Win does not reach out to us. Again, reach out to us at Campus2Canton on Twitter or campus2canton@gmail.com. Congratulations on your, if you're watching live, signed Jordan Addison jersey.
I'm not going to lie, I don't really like USC, but they got some nice, that color combo is just...
The gold on the red, yeah. I really wanted to just like get rid of this Wilson jersey and replace it with the JSN.
All right, guys.
So P-Win, if you listen and you'd rather have Garrett Wilson, we can make that happen.
Well, that's going to do it for tonight's show here, guys. Apologies to Kirk Herbstreit. We ran out of time here, but we will eventually get him rescheduled. Check out everything else here on the Campus to Canton podcast feed. Got something coming out for you guys every day. For Austin Nace, for Matthew Bruning, for Chris Moxley, good night and good luck.